All right, welcome back for Chapter 8. So, in after Chapter 8, we're going to be talking about the experiment. So, we're moving forward. We've defined the problems, we've had our ideas, and now we're going to put them into practice. We're going to make something happen. So that's a fun chapter as well. And when we look at good ideas, we have to remember that it is a process. It would be great to have a great idea, and the first time I tried it, it worked out perfectly. Wouldn't that be great? But we don't really have that expectation. And if you have that expectation for ourselves, we're going to be disappointed all the time. We have to have the expectation that it's going to take lots of times to do things. And we're going to fail. We're going to fail. And that's not a failure. It's just an opportunity to learn more from that to get us closer to the solution. So the world's just not set up that we're going to have instant success all the time. So when we develop good ideas, we know that it's a process. We're going to test the ideas, we're going to fail, we're going to learn from what happened, and then we're going to retain that information and try it again until we get to that final solution, which takes a while. And that's okay. That's part of the process. To be creative, a person has to be willing to develop a new mental set. So I don't have to see things the same way I've always seen them. I'm going and willing to see it differently. If we can't see it differently, we're going to keep trying to put things back into that same mold, and we're not going to be able to break through with the creative process that we need. And there's 3 strategies that can help us to do that your book discusses. And it helps us with learning and idea development. The first one is to seriously play. So to really enjoy, we told you it was your homework. I wasn't kidding. So we're going to enjoy that playing process, and involved in it, we're going to study it and what we can learn in that process of exploring, being creative, and playing. The second thing then is to sketch out our ideas as to what we think it should look like, and then finally to prototype it. And this allows us to create a small version of whatever it is and test it to see if it works or if it doesn't work or what needs to be done differently. So we're going to play, we're going to sketch, and then we're going to prototype our ideas. When you do have an idea and you want to develop, it's also important that you validate that it's useful and that it works the way it's supposed to. So it's great to have an idea, but if it doesn't work and then you put it in practice, go, oh yeah, well that wasn't as good of an idea as I thought it would be. I've done that a ton of times. I've just in creativity around the home, I went, oh, that did not work out like I thought it was going to. So we need to make sure that what we thought was going to happen happened the way we want it to happen, and that's okay. And this is done through a couple of things. First thing we're going to do is think about the design that we want to create, and then we're going to refine it and play with it and make sure that we can narrow it down the way we really want it done. Then we're going to compare it to other things to make sure we believe it's a solid idea, and then we're going to go ahead and implement our solution or create that new thing. When we do move towards developing a new product or service, one of the things we have to think about is, does this meet a need and is it useful? So creating something just to create it, outside of things like art and music and things like that, why am I creating it? What is its purpose? What does it do? So you can create something and nobody's going to be interested in it because they don't understand it and it doesn't have value. So in that creative process, that's what we want to examine, is does this meet a customer need? Does it meet a purpose, and is it useful? And there's 2 scales that can be used to help assess that. They're already existing, and in fact they're in your course shelf, so you'll be able to pull those up and examine them, and you're going to have an assignment that has you using that tool to to figure out how that works and how it can be applied. And those are the CPSS, which stands for Creative Product Semantic Scale, and the CSDS, which is Creative Solutions Diagnostic Scale. And these can be used to evaluate your new idea. It's a grid, it's a rubric, and it allows you to examine and evaluate your idea in its formulation and its usefulness. So just because I have an idea doesn't mean it should be done. So having this grid to kind of cross-compare it to determine should it be done and why it should be done will help us feel more empowered when moving forward. It definitely scores high. We should move forward with this idea. I think it's a practical one, or it's not. So that's a lot of fun. And remember, it's really important to accept our failures and not be overstressed by them. Just because something didn't work the first time doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means you're not there yet. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have failures, and we don't want to look at them like failures, but learning lessons. What did I learn from that so I can get stronger and better for the next time? I know, in an elementary school that I'm familiar with, one of their mottos is to fail forward. And if kids can learn that process early, that when they fail, it's not a failure, they learned from it and it helps move them forward. So when we get defeated by our failures, it's our attitude that stops us from being successful. And there's so many inspirational quotes that say it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. But that really does come into play with creativity. If we get upset by every failure and we view them as a failure, then we view ourselves as failures. And we don't want to do that. We want to look at that as being something that I'm learning from as I get closer to that solution. So attitude really is everything. All right. So this is the end of chapter 8. I'll see you back for chapter 9.